Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the concept of the akhirah starts from the very position that one calls himself a believer. Then he says, and of course we do have the power to show you what we threaten them with. And indeed we know that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did see both places, paradise, and be it that you are a believer or unbeliever, this is the destination of every soul, barzakh. It is not going to come out of there. Just as a child will come out of the womb of the mother, there is no way to return to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah, he says, look at the signs of the creation, and you will find in it the similitude of those similar things that are found where? In Jannah, and the likes and the works of what this creation is about will tell you the likes and the works of what will happen on the day of Qiyamah. Every single thing in this earth is also as though it is a transitory period. A person, even in our lifetime, physically, barzakh is unseen to us. But from the very mere example of the child from the womb is a physical example. But for the child in the womb, it was physical in the womb of the mother. To the world, it could not see. It could not take anything from this world in terms of direct benefit of hold, touch in any way. Walk, couldn't move anywhere from there. But it was there. And out of there, it removes itself from that transitory stage. So it, as though the womb acts as a barzakh, as a transitory state waiting to come for the time when it is ripe, moment and time, this child will be born and barzakh will be removed from that child from the womb. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows a different example again in the Quran. Surah Rahman. He says, بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. When the two oceans will meet, their meeting point is also what? Barzakhun. It is a transitory period that the water doesn't just crash into each other. But many people say, well, the Quran can mention a wall. It's not really a wall. It is a barrier. It is that barzakh that actually no amount of water from this side, once it goes across this side, it must pass through this barrier, filter the system, go through the other side, and then it becomes just like the other water on the other side. That is the barrier. Just as you have the estuaries and the barriers between the sweet water and the salt water. All of it is set in the Quran, showing us that barzakh, the transitory period and that process, is such a process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made visible to us. You cannot want Jannat until you go through barzakh, until death comes and you reach barzakh. Barzakh is the start of the unseen world to this visible, physical human being. We could talk barzakh, and therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He tells us in the Quran about barzakh, we must understand as believers that that is a stage where we all have to reach. And the final abode is where? Where the worms will consume them. From the biggest of luxuries to the smallest of places. And then we look at the comfort and what direction. When we look at the effort for the best of drives, for the best of comforts in our homes, and at the end of it, this body goes into a hole and it's finished. All the effort. And then that's the reality, what we could see, That's not talking about barzakh yet. That's what we could see. We prepare the body, we dress it, we shroud it, we place it in the hole, we niche the trench, we cover it with the board, place the dirt, and finish with it. Walk away. Then barzakh starts. What do you want? You want to go back and take an next try at the world? Never. Never would he ever think of saying that word, return. Don't ever return me to this world. There's nothing I want here. Nothing that this world could present to me anymore. It's to wake up in the morning, you just have to get up to work. Wake up in the morning, you have to deal with this and you have to deal with that problem. You're sick and you're getting over your sickness. You have this disease to deal with. And when you reach out of this the barzakh, all these things disappear. Because it was all part of what carrying this body with this disease. It was all part of taking care of this body all the while. It was all part of nurturing this body, educating this mind, educating this brain, looking after for some comfort of this body. And now all of this is gone. All was behind my nafs. Myself, or my family, or my children, my wife. It was all about that. But when I reach here, all of this is all over. It is all over. It is now all about my beautiful position in paradise. Who wants to return? Who wants to return when the angel will ask, who will return? Nobody wants to return. Nobody wants to return from that position. So he says, just put me, my desire now is to be taken before Allah's presence. But when the same question is put to an unbeliever, one who denies Allah, what will be his position? He answers, is that he wishes to be sent back to the world. He wants to come back. He wants to change his life. Because now, he now sees the position in hell. He sees the position in hell. We ain't talking about even the punishment yet. We're talking about just looking at the positions in Jannah and the position in hell. And the decision now and the question is being asked, what you want to do. This is a rhetorical question because there is no way of coming back. There is no way of return. But the question is only asked because now the consciousness of that world, you would ask, would that soul think, would that human being that we would think, know, have senses, see? Of course, every single faculty the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that this body and jasad used to do for us in alam al-barzakh, that ruh and that soul will have all of these faculties. All of the characteristics that you had as this human being is just that we do not know what is the, as we have flesh and blood, if it is the same, similar shape, size, color, weight, texture, smell, we don't know it. But the soul is already clad in the same physical form. In a form, whether it is a physical, spiritual nature, he goes into barzakh. He goes into barzakh, he will know what is his position. If it is sad, happy, or he's going to face torments immediately. There is no letting up. Alam barzakh is also referred to as alam qabr, the world of the grave. Here is not to be considered as some pit, which is the next topic by itself. But we are talking here about barzakh. When this point reach, Quran and Hadith tells us. It doesn't tell only about what? Punishment. It tells us about the good things about barzakh. It tells us about the reward of being in barzakh. It tells us of the comfort of the grave for a believer. What comfortable state he's going to have there. And it also tells us for those who deny Allah, who would not fulfill their rights towards the deen and towards their obedience to their Rabb, their Lord, what will be their position? What will be their position? What was the condition of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam when it even comes to that time? When he looked at the grave and he looked at the people and his ummah, he remained in prostration begging Allah to save his ummah, to enter all of them into Jannah. Then he says 1/3 would go. Then Rasulullah continues, he says, no, I'm going to continue begging and begging until he says 2/3. Then he says all of them will go. Then commentators mention this 1/3. One will be entirely of the people who will enter into Jannah without reckoning. A next third who will have to go through questioning, and a third who will have to go through the fire and then enter into Jannah. But this is the condition. This is the condition that it is in. The Rasul sallallahu has something to do for the life of the hereafter. Leave it for our next day. That's why the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam never even liked to have loans. But really, the situation for us is still waiting, and we have not prepared for it. We have not prepared for it. In the barzakh, the soul is quite free from such domination. And now it's the opposite. Now it's the opposite. Now the soul has control. And the institution of nikah and marriage is also absent. There is no marriage in barzakh. Can't marry there because we have no what? Physical being. We don't know what this blood and flesh is, not like that. So no nikah in barzakh. However, in the hereafter, yes, Jannah, we have all of that again. But in barzakh, we don't have that. In conclusion, we'll just do one more paragraph, inshallah. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has explained that when a believer's soul is transported to the skies, the souls of the other previously deceased believers meet and inquire about their friends and relatives on earth. They want to know what's going on. And if about some person they have informed that he is no more on earth, having passed away long ago, the authentic books of a hadith state, but he has not come to us. Imam Suyuti alayhi rahmah has confirmed that this is a sound hadith. So if he is not with them where the souls of the righteous are, where would he be? If he is not among those people in the place in Barzakh where the righteous are kept, then he is in Sijjeen. Next class, inshallah. Let's make dua and close, inshallah. Allahumma ameen. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا